Why do countries keep falling for China's debt trap diplomacy? The world owes over $5 trillion to China. At least 150 countries are under the pressure of Chinese debt.
Belt and Road Initiative, or the BRI, was unveiled in 2013. It was Chinese President Xi Jinping's ambitious plan to play a more prominent role in global affairs and counter American influence. However, it faces significant criticism. Many experts and countries, including India, have accused China of engaging in debt trap diplomacy.
To Sri Lanka, the country's economic crisis and the desperate need for funds may have pushed it towards more trouble. Colombo may have walked into China's debt trap diplomacy.
It's been a cornerstone of Chinese foreign policy for a decade, but has it become a debt trap for poor and middle-income nations?
In 2020, Zambia, a small African nation, defaulted on its external loan. Followed by Zambia, Sri Lanka defaulted on its external loans in 2022. Followed by these two countries, more than 12 countries are on the verge of default to the external loans. These countries are facing serious financial crisis. Some of the major countries among them are Pakistan, Kenya, Laos and Mongolia. Pakistan is going through a serious financial crisis with inflation reaching more than 1000%. Millions of people in Pakistan are unemployed because of the closure of the textile industries. This is because Pakistan government failed to pay the electricity dues to the power generators. Because of this, Pakistan government failed to supply electricity to these textile industries. As a result, these textile industries had to close down their operation. Another country called Laos, which is a Southeast Asian nation, is facing high debt to GDP ratio. Its debt to GDP ratio has crossed the 90% mark. Inflation and unemployment is too high in Laos, which is at the brink of a civil war. Other countries which are in financial distress are also facing the same situation as Pakistan and Laos. Despite the diversity in geographical location, there is one common attribute among all these countries. They are all members of the Belt and Road Initiative. These nations have borrowed billions of dollars from China as loans for the construction of various infrastructure projects under the BRI initiative. China launched the Belt and Road Initiative in 2013. At the launch of this project, President of China, Xi Jinping, promised to invest $1 trillion in this initiative by 2030. This Belt and Road Initiative aims to build a series of infrastructure projects across more than 150 countries. These projects include roads, railways, harbors, airports, power plants, and other infrastructures. Aim of the initiative is to enhance China's connectivity across the three continents of Africa, Asia, and Europe, and enhance China's trade with these members. Under this initiative, billions of dollars are provided as loans to these countries for the construction of these projects. Till now, around $400 billion has been provided. In 2013, developing and underdeveloped countries were struggling to get investments from the international financial institutes like World Bank for different development projects in their country. This is because these financial institutes are very choosy about the projects that they lend, and they go through a tedious process of scrutinization. These financial institutes lend loans with a large number of conditions, and also these institutes are largely dominated by the Western nations. These institutes largely prioritize projects that suit the interest of the Western nation. Hence, the poor nations in Asia and Africa could not meet the funding requirement for the development project. Launch of BRI, that is Belt and Road Initiative, in 2013 opened new gateway for these nations. These smaller and low-income countries got access to funds. They also got technological assistance from China to build large infrastructure projects. This proved promising for the underdeveloped countries. As a result, more than 100 nations joined the initiative in 2013, and large number of projects were started all across the world. Since then, every year China invested billions of US dollars in these projects. With the aspiration to benefit from this initiative, more than 150 countries became a member of this initiative by 2017. At a time when the whole world was looking at the Belt and Road Initiative as the biggest and most promising infrastructure initiative in the world of 21st century, this project began to experience some issues from the year 2017. 2017 onwards, the member nations of Belt and Road Initiative began to experience decrease in their forex reserves. Forex reserves are nothing but the foreign currencies that are held by the countries. These forex reserves are used by countries for making payment to the imports and repayment of the external loans. For a stable economy, it is essential that these reserves do not fall below a certain limit. This situation got further aggravated after the pandemic. Many countries lined up at the brink of financial crisis. Economies of two countries, Sri Lanka and Zambia, collapsed. Countries which were active participants to projects under the Belt and Road Initiative were now cancelling the lined up projects and became hesitant to accept any new projects. Italy, the only G7 nation of the Belt and Road Initiative, came out of the Belt and Road Initiative in September 2023. Change in policy among these countries was because of the fact that they began to realize the BRI projects created a debt trap for them. Debt trap, it refers to a situation where a country is unable to repay its loan and it has to take another loan to repay its loan. COVID pandemic and the global lockdown, which was followed by Russia-Ukraine war, crippled several economies. As a result, some countries could not repay the loan. These countries, which failed to repay the loans to China, began to hand over their national resources to China. For example, Djibouti, a small country in Africa, handed over its Obot port to China for a 10 years lease. Pakistan handed over its Gwadar port to China for 40 years. Tajikistan handed over an area of around 1000 square kilometers for a petty loan. Laos handed over an entire national electricity grid to China as it failed to repay its loan. Sri Lanka handed over its Hambantota port to China for a period of 99 years. There are several reasons within the BRI initiative which push these countries into the external debt crisis. First and major reason is the way the BRI has been designed. BRI has been designed by China in such a manner that China stands to gain the most of these projects. Projects under this initiative are given only to the Chinese companies. Resources, raw materials and machineries used in these projects are imported only from China. All the staffs employed under this project are hired only from China. The projects are designed in China and by Chinese companies only. As a result of this, around 80% of Chinese loans goes back to China itself through different means. The investing nations which receive the loans from China end up paying interest for these loans which was already taken back by China. Let's understand this concept with an example. Let's assume China makes an investment in Sri Lanka for the construction of a harbor. So the financial institute Chinese Exim Bank provides a loan of $1 billion to Sri Lanka for the construction of this harbor. This bank pays to the construction company which is going to build this harbor. Construction of any infrastructure projects can be categorized into two. One is design phase and another one is execution phase. Design phase accounts for around 10 to 15% of the total project cost. Under the execution phase, purchase of raw materials, machineries and equipments accounts for 50 to 60% of the total expense of the project. China imports the raw materials like cement, steel from China itself. Machineries like poklanes, cranes, excavators and other heavy machineries are also imported from China. Staffs working in these projects are also Chinese. Payment of salaries to the workers and staffs account for 10 to 20% of the total project cost. Since the staffs employed under these projects are also from China, these expenses also goes back to China. As a result, only 10 to 20% of these Chinese loans remains with the Sri Lankan people. This shows how the Chinese have designed the BRI initiative to serve the Chinese interests at the cost of the developing and underdeveloped nation. However, these are not the only reasons. China charges high interest rates. Loans provided by the Asian Development Bank come with an interest rate of 1 to 2%, whereas Chinese loans are in the range of 4 to 5%. And also the repayment period of loans under the World Bank or Asian Development Bank are 25 to 28 years. whereas Chinese loans come with a repayment period of 10 to 20 years. Another major problem is failure of the projects under this Belt and Road Initiative to give the promised return. Sri Lanka's Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport is an example of how these projects fails to give returns. This airport has been dubbed as the world's emptiest international airport. It was built by China along with its financial assistance under the Belt and Road Initiative. It was built at a cost of nearly $282 million. This airport was built to reduce the traffic congestion in Colombo. However, this airport, which has a capacity of 1 million travelers per year, hosted only 2,739 passengers in 2015 and 4,700 passengers in 2016. The airport is registering nearly $18 million per year in losses. This is the case with several BRI projects across the world. Another issue is lack of transparency in the projects under the Belt and Road Initiative. While signing agreements with other countries, China puts in writing of these agreements to ensure confidentiality. The provisions of these agreements are prohibited to be disclosed even to its own public. Financial transactions under these projects are mostly not between the two governments. It is between a Chinese financial institute and a government or a private entity. Hence, it is not recorded in the balance sheet of the governments. Absence of these huge loans from the government balance sheets makes it difficult for the international institutes to estimate the exact amount and predict and prevent the external debt default of these low-income countries. However, despite the above-mentioned criticism, it would be unfair not to appreciate the service China has done to the underdeveloped countries. It has highlighted the lack of infrastructure in the developing world and forced the Western nations to match Chinese efforts to fill that gap. In the light of pushbacks and criticism, during the last 10 years, China has pledged to reform the BRI initiative. Chinese President Xi Jinping acknowledged these issues and pledged the following reforms in the Third Belt and Road Forum in October 2023 at Beijing. It has been promised that emphasis under this initiative will be shifted from large-scale capital-intensive infrastructure projects to small and smart technology-based projects. Promotion of green infrastructure projects like solar energy, wind energy, electric vehicles, etc. And the third reform is to promote transparency through the emphasis on multilateralism and greater private sector participation. Infrastructure is the key to the success of the developing world, and the failure to help emerging economies to meet this vital need will only make them vulnerable. Instead of focusing only on criticizing China, Western countries should come up with financial and technological assistance to facilitate the growth of these underdeveloped countries. Unless this is done, low-income countries will continue to fall victim to Chinese loans.